All right, we're here with Chip Halderman, who is a beekeeper. And Chip, what made you want to become a beekeeper?
Well, we did some garden. We used to do some gardening. We still do gardening. We did some gardening, and some friends of mine kept bees. I met a gentleman at a seed fair one time, Richard Bean, who sold honey exclusively and would dress up in a funny little bee costume to sell his honey down at the farmer's market. Started talking to him about things and thought, hey, maybe this would be something that we would like to do in our garden too. So we talked to him. He teaches a little class here in the county, and so we took the class, and that's how I got into beekeeping.
So, did he teach you, or did you teach yourself the art of beekeeping?
Well, he taught us. I mean, he put us through a class. He taught us, the anatomy of a bee and what bees are and what the stages are. How there's worker bees and there's the queen bee, and then there's drones, and then through the stages of when the queen lays the eggs, because only one queen lays all of the eggs. So he taught us all that part. After that, beekeeping is kind of something that you just do. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer in beekeeping. It's based on your experiences, I think, a lot of times.
So, you do a lot of reading, apparently, about it.
I do a lot of reading. Yeah, I try to read as much as I can. I mean, that was one of the things. The Bee Bible was probably a good one that my brother and sister-in-law gave to us for Christmas one year. So I've read the Bee Bible as well. I've read lots of little things that help. So. Yeah.
So, you got your hives through Richard Bean, is that correct?
So I got the first hives through Richard. He got us set up. The bees come in a cardboard box for the most part, just like this. And then inside the box there are frames. This particular one is an old box frame, but you can see the comb that has already developed on this. This is old comb, but we try to utilize it year after year, so we try to figure that out.
Can you bring it closer to the camera?
Well, not from here, I can't.
Okay. And all of this is what the bees
That's
make.
all beeswax. Yes, the bees, or as some people say, that's bee spit.
What's this right here?
That's a moth problem. Don't want that. That's why these are in retirement currently. There are 10 frames in a body like this, so the bees have plenty of room in between each one to get through, and then they make that comb, and then that's where they deposit either the queen deposits eggs for new bees, or in this case you put another top on it, and that's where the honey is stored for the bees too, which is what we as beekeepers obviously are looking for.
Now, this is winter time, so how do the bees get their food?
Well, this year, and most beekeepers do the same thing, you don't take all of the honey. You leave them with about 15 to 20 pounds of honey. A hive like this, this is actually a super like this can produce about 40 to 50 pounds. So some beekeepers tend to just take some of the honey from them, and then they leave the rest. They do that in late fall. That way the bees can also store more honey for their wintering. Some beekeepers would prefer to feed the bees like a sugar water throughout the winter. Also, you can put a top feeder on as well. So that the bees never have to leave the hive and always have sugar water that they can make energy from, so, or get food from. So.
So my next question was, what kind of equipment is needed? You've answered some of that, but what's that behind you?
Behind me is a suit. This is an entry-level suit, no doubt about it. But it is top and hat and long sleeved as well. And then it has one pocket in the middle. This one is entry level, but it's what I use. I don't really need much else. If you put on a long sleeve shirt underneath it and jeans, most of the time you can get away with a pretty inexpensive beekeeping suit like that. But to start from the beginning, obviously you need bees. That's where that box comes in. So on the bottom here we have a bottom, this is just a bottom tray. As you can see, the bottom tray is lifted so that the bees can get in through the slots here. Slot that goes all the way around. It does a couple of things. It allows all the bees to go through. It also allows them, if the hive gets too hot, they can fan it. So you'll see them, a lot of times you'll see bees beard. They call it bearding. And they get on that hive like that, and they're using their wings to cool the hive down also. This is a super, but for this purpose, it's the same. It is a body, and then, like I said, then this is where the bees and the queen would lay her eggs. The other thing you need then is a top. This is an old top, and the top goes right on. This is kind of what keeps all the bees in and keeps critters out, if you will. So those are the three components of it. Then once you get your bees, you merely just take the frames out and slide them into your hive body. The other thing you'll need is a hive tool. It's really kind of just like a putty knife for the most part. But this allows you to get the frames out. As the bees begin to make it, they will have wax and things on them, so you'll need it sometimes to pry your things. You can also use it to move things too. That way you're not actually touching the hive and the frames either. So you can kind of minimize the human element of that.
So some people are scared of bees. Were you? And if so, how did you overcome your fear?
Well, I don't think that I was scared. I might have been hesitant. The first time I went out to see Richard's hives and help him do some things after I'd taken his class, he has a lot of hives, and he had just caught a swarm, and so he was putting the bees into a swarm. I didn't have any equipment on. I didn't have a veil on. I didn't have anything like that. But I think what I found astonishing was that it was kind of calming. All the buzzing, all those bees everywhere was almost calming to me, because I knew that they didn't want anything to do with me. I mean, I don't have any pollen on me, so they're not interested in getting on me. But yeah, I think there's always some hesitation. I think they sense that fear too sometimes. I'm not sure of that. Obviously, I'm not an entomologist, and I'm certainly not a bee psychologist, but I think they can sense that fear of you too. So, I wasn't scared, but hesitant, yes.
So, beekeeping can be dangerous, but so have you been stung before?
I have been stung. First time I got stung pretty good, we were doing another video shoot, and they stung my hand. Well, once a bee stings and you're near the hive, more bees come because they sense then that this is an intruder, and so they attack that intruder. And I got stung 4 or 5 times on the top of my hand, and my hand was pretty swollen. It was tough to do my job the next couple of days. And then I've been stung once on my nose, the tip of my nose, because my glasses were falling down, and as I tried to push my glasses back up, my veil hit my nose, and a bee decided to take advantage of that too. I've been stung a couple of 3 times. Our dog has been stung a couple of times too, which is unusual because I don't remember what she was doing, but I think I had stirred them up right before I was taking honey, getting ready to extract honey. So I had them pretty stirred up, and she started kind of nipping at them. So she got stung, but she was smart. She ran away.
Since you became a beekeeper, what have you done differently in your yard?
Every year we try to plant something different. Now we've got rows of wildflowers. We made beds of wildflowers. We keep zinnias. We keep lavender. Lavender is really fantastic. Makes your honey really sweet. Gives it a great flavor. Before we got bees, we also built a 6,000-gallon decorative pond in our backyard. That was so that the bees always would have a water source. That's important because they bring the pollen and mix it with water, and then honey is bee spit again. So just watered down bee spit. But they take that pollen and they let it ferment in there, and that's how honey is made. So the more different varieties of pollen that you have, the richer your honey will come out, I think. So it's my philosophy anyway. Like I said, you can have 10 beekeepers in a room and have 15 different ways of how you keep bees. So it's not an exact science, no matter how many books you read. It is an experiment. Every year is an experiment, I would say.
Have you noticed a difference in your garden? You know, like you have flowers and you have vegetables.
True. Yes. I think the year before we got the bees, I don't remember our corn doing as well. The next year it went crazy, and I read somewhere that each kernel of corn has to be pollinated. So I'm going to conclude that that's probably why we had a better corn crop. Now we don't grow a whole bunch of it, but just a nice, just enough to kind of get your 20-30 ears, around 4th of July, for those cookouts and things like that. But yeah, I think so. I know our tomato and our pepper production went up quite a bit one year. I think we're still eating 2 years ago's jalapeno jelly as well as salsa. But if you're willing to can it, it'll last for a long time. So yeah, I think the bees absolutely have helped, especially in our garden. So yeah, and hopefully around everywhere else, because we know that we have pear trees and apples and pears and cherries in our neighborhood. And I think I notice as I walk around the neighborhoods that it seems like those fruits do better also. So yeah, bees are pollinators. That's what we need them for.
Yeah, I was going to ask, why are bees so important for our world?
They're pollinators. Yeah, I think it was Albert Einstein that said that without bees, man would last 4 days, because bees pollinate everything. When you have two trees, a male and a female tree, they have to cross-pollinate in order to do that. We can rely on the wind to do that, but there's no guarantee of something like that. So if you only had 2 trees and you're guaranteeing on the wind, and the wind doesn't blow right that one year, you don't get as much fruit. Whereas bees go from flower to flower to flower to flower, and so then you get the pollination that crosses, and that's how we get the better fruits.
So oftentimes we go to the grocery store, we don't even realize how important they are and what foods we would be without.
Yeah, you'd be without probably 70% of foods, I would think. People truck their bees from all over the country to California in the almond fields. Obviously, vineyards are no vino if you don't have bees either. You wouldn't have all the like I said, the apple pies around for the 4th of July, strawberries. Anything that needs a pollinator is. So yeah, 70% of what we eat needs to be pollinated, and bees are the #1 pollinator. So yeah, absolutely, gotta have them.
So what's been happening to the bee population over the years, and why do you think this is occurring?
That's a good question. I say that because there are so many theories out there. One says, this colony collapse disorder that they have today. What is that? Nobody really knows. However, it's been linked to insecticides and the pretty lawns that we want out in front of our house, where we use fertilizers and chemicals and things like that. And bees are fragile. I mean, they're a fragile insect. It's like I liken them to frogs. When water pollution goes up, amphibian population goes down because they need to be wet, and so that gets in their system, and they get diseased or things like that. So, you know, the insecticides that we use, I'm not going to name any names, of course, but they are the insecticides that we use. A lot of things that we use, I think, are causing some of that. You know, those bees bring it back to the hive. You've got 70,000 inhabitants in a hive, and you bring back a killer, it's going to automatically do that. We lost hives just because it's been so cold, though, too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's possible that they just. The other part is sometimes the queen just decides they want to take her somewhere else, or if the hive gets too big, it splits off and goes somewhere else, and then the hive makes a new queen. But I don't have a good answer for why the colonies are collapsing. But my best guess would be because of the insecticides that we use, even spraying crops, and the big farmers that are spraying their crops. You know, those bees go over to pollinate all the corn, but then they're bringing that residue back to the hive. So I don't have a good answer for that.
Now, we don't live in the country, we live in the city, but we still have bees. So anybody can be a beekeeper, really.
Anybody could be a beekeeper, yeah. You know,
If somebody wanted to become a beekeeper, what advice would you give them?
Make sure it's okay with your neighbors. I think when we first got bees, we even we gave honey to everybody too, to make sure that they knew that we had bees. But you know, bees don't just fly around above the ground. When a bee leaves the hive, it leaves the hive and goes up. Bees will travel 1 mile to 2 miles to go get pollen, and because they search everywhere for different kinds of stuff. So bees don't stay low to the ground or anything like that. So most of the time, I guarantee you that people don't even really know they're there. They might notice that there's an increase in bee activity in our neighborhood, but people don't really notice bees. I think one of our neighbors said one time that they really liked one of particular plants, and I did some reading, and sure enough, they do like that plant. But we also keep epinephrine, or the pens for allergic reactions, because if you're allergic to bee stings, then you need to be able to keep those around. So I keep not only an adult but a junior EpiPen in the house also. I would hate to be the reason why somebody goes into anaphylactic shock, but at least I could help them if it did. So, my best advice would be just to try to start it. It's one of those things where you just got to kind of jump in. You got to buy the equipment. It'll cost you about $300, $300 or $400 to get started. Bee packages run from $100 to $130, depending on where you get them from, who supplies them, how many you buy. Also, I think sometimes I would like to get another hive, at least one more hive. We have just one now, but
I would like to take a minute to look out and see, because they do have to have a water source, right?
They do have to have a water source, yes.
And you worked really hard building that pond. And would a person have to build a big pond like that? Or?
Oh, absolutely not. Some people do rain barrels that just have troughs in them too. So you collect the rainwater, and then you can build in little troughs, and so that water level is always there too. Lots of ways to do it. Stagnant water obviously is also going to bring mosquitoes and things like that. So we built the pond because we thought it was going to be a pretty thing. We do have lilies in it now, we have goldfish in it. And the sound of running water and the waterfall in the evenings to go out and sit on the back deck is pretty amazing, honestly. So that's why we built the pond. It started out as a much smaller pond, but I got a little exuberant while digging. So it ended up being a much larger pond than we initially had anticipated. But in order to become a beekeeper, I guess my first thing would be to pick up a book, see if it's something that you like. Even some of the older books are pretty nice. This one's just Bee Culture in Kansas, or no, that's Bee Culture. This one's Bee Culture in Kansas, specifically for Kansas. But this one is an older book. This one was from February of 1953, and it was given out by the Agriculture Experiment Station by Kansas State of Agriculture and Applied Sciences, Kansas State University.
So can a person call their local extension office?
Absolutely. The local
find
extension will give you persons to contact. I think that here we're in Douglas County, the Northeast Beekeepers Association, which you can join for free, or I think it costs you $1, and it's something basically free. But then you get a vote. At least your vote counts in what and how they should do about bees and things like that. But they meet at the Extension Center over in Douglas County as well. You could call your Extension Center. You can call the Agricultural Center. If you get on the website, I think there are 5 or 10 people in the state of Kansas. If you find a swarm, that will come out and get the swarm for you as well. They will take it. Obviously, they're going to put it in a box and they're going to reap the rewards of it. But it gets it out of your place, and it's better than putting insecticide on them and killing them. And I think that's the biggest deal. So. I encourage anybody to try that at any time. And so,
Well, thank you.
My pleasure.
I'd just like to take a minute to go look at the hive. I know it's all covered up because it is winter time right now.
It is, yes.
But